And how long is it going for at the moment? How long is the program for?
It's gonna be. It will be for 3 days.
3 more days, inshallah. Good.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been there. I mean, particularly reading Das and being kind of gathered around together as a different type of intimacy and dialogue, I guess, in the exchanges that we have and the reflections that we have would have been much better. But khair, inshallah, we have this quarantine and isolation period, which is hopefully of a benefit in disguise. So we'll make the most of it through Zoom. I'll wait for the go from you guys whenever we're ready.
Whenever you are ready, we are online.
Okay.
So you can start, and we will start now. Reading. Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. What I might do, just for convenience, and I guess the purpose of concentrating on the text, I might just switch off the video while we're doing the read, so we can focus on the text. And at the end, for discussions, perhaps we can open it up and do an exchange that way. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Because all you might see is just me focusing on the screen or reading the text, which is not a lot to look at. Inshallah, we'll go about it that way. If there's any questions, we can open up the video if need be.
Sounds good.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. We're reading from the 20th flash. As you may know, the Risale-i note has 2 specific chapters regarding Ikhlas, and they're consecutive chapters in the works called the flashes. This is the 20th and the 21st flash. We're going to be reading from the 20th flash today. We might not be able to go through all of it, but it's quite an important Risale. I suppose out of all the Risale parts in the collection, it's the one part that Ustad really wants us to focus on and repeatedly visit is the 21st flash. In fact, he puts a condition asking us to read it every fortnight, at least at the bare minimum. Now, this one is a kind of precursor or a preparation for that. It's still regarding Ikhlas, but I guess it's more of an outward presentational form of Ikhlas in the outward manifestation of it between communities and societies. Whereas the 21st flash probably deals more with the inward from amongst the people who wish to serve the Quran. Inshallah, we'll start reading from the 20th, on Ikhlas. And as we read each part, I guess at the end, if there's any questions, we can talk about that specific part. And finally, we can wrap it up with some discussions and insights or some reflections. So I'll start. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The 20th flash on Ikhlas. While being the first of the 5 points which form the second of the 7 matters of the 17th flash, this became the 20th flash because of its importance. I'll read the Arabic and then we'll read the rendered translation. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna anzalna ilayka al-kitaba bil-haqqi fa'budillaha mukhlisan lahu ad-din. Ala lillahi ad-din al-khalis. The verse which says, verily, we sent the book down to you in truth. So worship Allah in sincerity. For Allah is sincerely practiced religion. And the noble saying of the Prophet, all men will perish except the scholars, and all scholars will perish except those who act in accordance with their knowledge. And all of them will perish except the sincere. And even the sincere are in great danger. So the verse and this saying of the Prophet demonstrate together how important a principle of Islam is sincerity, ikhlas. From among the innumerable points concerning sincerity, we will briefly expound only 5. Note, an auspicious sign of blessed Sparta, which causes one to offer thanks, is that compared with other places, there is no visible rivalry and dispute between the pious, those who follow the Sufi path, and the religious scholars. Even if the required true love and union is not present, comparatively speaking, there is no harmful rivalry and conflict. It's quite a significant point, which we may revisit at the end. First point, an important and awesome question. Why is it that while the worldly and the neglectful, and even the misguided and hypocrites, the munafiqs, cooperate without rivalry, the people of religion, the religious scholars, and those who follow the Sufi path oppose each other in rivalry, although they are the people of truth and concord? Agreement belongs in reality to the people of concord, and dispute to the hypocrites, the munafiqs. How is it that these two have changed places? So how is it that agreement seemed to have moved towards where the hypocrites and the people of neglect and heedless are? And how is it that dispute and discord have come to the people of truth, when in fact the reality should be the other way around? The answer, we will set forth 7 of the extremely numerous causes of this painful, disgraceful, and awesome situation, one that causes the zealous to weep. So I hope the question's clear, because it's the whole chapter, I guess, of the 20th flash is predicated on this question. Just as a kind of means of talking about the two parties involved. So we're talking about here the people of guidance, scholarship, and the people of tariqah versus the people of the world and the neglect and the heedless. So we'll call the people of guidance, the people of religion, the people of scholarship as here, us, and let's call the people of the world, the neglectful and the heedless, them. Okay, so we'll just use those references, but keep in mind that we're not talking exclusively about us or them, but more so about the descriptors here, which Ustad explains. So why is it that they have seemingly achieved some kind of concord and unity and agreement? And how is it that we, or here, there is no apparent unity? There doesn't seem to be some kind of agreement and concord. This is a genuinely, as Ustad puts it, an extremely important question. It pains anyone who has some kind of zeal. It's also a kind of a point of disgrace, I guess, that should make us weep.
In order to understand the question, can I say that the people of belief, with any faith almost, have a certain connection with the whole universe? Not only, his fellow believers, but almost have a connection with the whole universe. The whole existence is a creation of Allah. So the people of belief may not have any hostility and enmity towards a real enmity towards anything, right? So this is a very valid question in that sense. So we see that people has almost no faith or no dedication like this can show us, an agreement among themselves, but we as people of belief and who claims that, you know, having a certain faith in a one creator, we don't have this kind of agreement. So is this the question, or this, can we think this question in these terms?
Sure, I think that can easily be framed in that way, because you're right. Anyone who has true belief should not have any type of discord and disagreement with anything. They should be in complete peace, in complete harmony, and they should be submissive to whatever Allah provides for them in terms of their qadar, in terms of the events that unfold in their lives, whether it be positive or negative. That's true. However, I think the point here is also that's pertinent here that we need to kind of reflect on is, let's face it, this is somewhat of a weak spot. Okay, this is kind of a weakness that unfortunately let's call them the people of misguidance and neglect, often capitalize on, and unfortunately sometimes even use against the people of belief. So this apparent disunity and discord or disagreement between believers also is used as somewhat of a weakening point for anyone who has some kind of spiritual strength. So it's generally portrayed as a disadvantage, a weakness, to discredit the people of belief. So why is it? Why is discord and disagreement here? Is that because there's some kind of dignity on the other side? Is that because there's some kind of a zeal and aspiration on the other side that we don't have? Or is there some kind of foresight and vision that they have that we lack? Do they have some kind of strength and we're weak? So these kind of go at the heart of why people remain within the fold of Islam and Iman and within their own methods and approaches. This is kind of, I think, a bit more pertinent as a community. But you're right, absolutely. I think it can be framed in that way as an extension. But I think it's quite clear. And if you look at what's happening online in social media and what's happening in various other channels, even traditional media, to be honest, this is often used as a kind of a stick, if you like, that pinpoints certain movements, certain people, to discredit the whole ummah, the whole community of followers. So it's really affecting every single one of us. But one important thing that you mentioned just before is that here it doesn't really use the word believers, which is interesting. It doesn't use the word mu'min. It's more so, of course, if you have true Iman, I suppose you wouldn't fall into these pitfalls. You wouldn't be trapped by these shortcomings. So really, it's for those, everyone outside of that true fold who aren't submissive, like you said, who shouldn't be in any disharmony and discord. So let's see, it says that there's 7 extremely numerous causes for this painful and disgraceful and awesome situation. We'll try to read at least 3 if we can, inshallah. Let's continue. The first, just as dispute among the people of truth does not arise from lack of the truth, so too the agreement prevailing among the people of neglect does not arise from any possession of truth. Rather, it is that a specific duty and particular function has been assigned to the classes in society, like the worldly, those engaged in politics, and those who have received a secular education. And thus, the functions of the various groups, societies, and communities have been defined and become distinguished from one another. Similarly, the material reward they are to receive for their functions in order to maintain a livelihood, as well as the moral reward that consists in the attention they receive from men for the sake of their ambition and pride, this too is established and specified. There is therefore nothing held in common to the degree that it might produce conflict, dissension, and rivalry. Okay, I think skipped a few points there, didn't I? Just read the so there are references. Okay. All right. We'll read the rest of it as well, and then we'll go on to speak about it. So there is therefore nothing held in common to the degree that it might produce conflict, dissension, and rivalry. However evil will be the path that they tread, they will be able to preserve unity and agreement. So this was the description of the people of misguidance. But as for the people of religion, the scholars, and those who follow the path, the duty of each is concerned with all men. Their material reward is not set and specified, and their share in social esteem and acceptance and public attention is not predetermined. Many may be candidates for the same position. Many hands may stretch out for each moral and material reward that is offered. Hence, it is that conflict and rivalry arise, concord is changed into discord, and agreement into dispute. Now, the cure and remedy for this appalling disease is sincerity, ikhlas. So I guess that's pretty straightforward. Now, the cure and remedy for this appalling disease is ikhlas. Ikhlas, or sincerity, may be attained by preferring the worship of Allah to the worship of one's own soul, nafs, by causing Allah's pleasure to vanquish the pleasure of the nafs, the soul, and the ego, and thus manifesting the meaning of the verse, verily, my reward is from Allah alone. By renouncing the material and moral reward to be had from men, and thus manifesting the meaning of the verse, naught is incumbent on the messenger but conveying the message. And by knowing that such matters as goodly acceptance and making a favorable impression and gaining the attention of men are Allah's concern and a favor from Him, and that they play no part in conveying the message, which is one's own duty, nor are they necessary for it, nor is one charged with gaining them. By knowing this, a person will be successful in gaining sincerity, ikhlas, otherwise it will vanish. There's a footnote here, which is quite important. We'll read that as well, and we can discuss the point. One should also take as one's guide the quality of preferring others to oneself, the same quality of the companions, the Sahaba, that is praised in the Quran. For example, when giving a present or performing an act of charity, one should always prefer the recipient to oneself, and without demanding or inwardly desiring any material reward for religious service, know one's act to be purely Allah's grace and not impose a sense of obligation on men. Nothing worldly should be sought in return for religious service, for otherwise sincerity will be lost. Men have many rights and claims and may even deserve zakat, but it cannot be demanded. When one receives something, it cannot be said that this is the reward for my service. Rather, in perfect contentment, one should always prefer to oneself others who are more deserving, thus manifesting the meaning of they prefer others to themselves through poverty be their lot, though poverty be their lot. One may be saved from this terrible danger and gain sincerity, ikhlas. So we can kind of discuss this because it kind of goes to the heart of the issue of discord and disagreement. So what did it say here that was the reason for the discord and disagreement seeming to be on their side rather than this side, on our side? Why does it seem to be that there is discord and disagreement on the side of the people of misguidance, on the people of neglect, the people of the heedlessness, who aren't of the people of truth. It kind of outlined here that, firstly, it's not because they have some kind of truth, right? Their unity and their agreement is more so as a result of the structure, the actual hierarchies that exist within their societies and their groupings and their communities. Everyone's function is clear. Everyone's duty or area of responsibility is clear. And as a result, their reward is clear. Their moral reward or their esteem is also set. And so there isn't really any point to dispute and argue about. And they find themselves in a concord and agreement. So essentially, there's nothing to kind of be in rivalry about when everything's set out so clearly in a hierarchy, in a structure as such. However, when it comes to the people of religion, scholars, and those who follow the true path, the path of truth, let's say, their duties aren't specified. Their audience isn't specified. In fact, every one of them is appealing to everyone. So every scholar, everyone from the people of religion are all trying to appeal to and reach out to every single person. Their rank or their hierarchy isn't set and structured as such. And many are candidates for the same role, for the same position from anywhere around the world, really. So there is a lot that seems to be causing in that situation the discord and disunity. All right. So the rivalry arises more so because a lacking of that structure. And that's not a negative, it's because it's a truth, right? Unfortunately, we're not utilizing that structure in it to our benefit. So that's an important point. It's not because that the people of misguidance and the people of heedlessness have some kind of truth. It's not that. They don't have the truth. And it's not because we lack a truth. We do have the truth. However, our audience or our ranking or our hierarchy isn't as set and structured as theirs. And so this is partly the cause of why there is discord and there is disagreement. It causes the rivalry, right? But there is a remedy, there is a cure. So what did it say the remedy and cure was? The cure and remedy is ikhlas. And it gave us a really good working definition of ikhlas, which is quite important. How do we gain ikhlas? How do we gain sincerity in our actions, in our deeds? It can only be attained. I don't know if I can, perhaps we can highlight this on the screen as well. Now, the cure and remedy for this appalling disease is ikhlas. Sincerity, or ikhlas, may be attained by preferring the worship of Allah to the worship of one's nafs, by causing Allah's pleasure to vanquish the pleasure of the nafs and the ego. So it's kind of the working definition. Are we performing our duties? Are we performing our functions and our roles for the sake of our own nafs, our own ego, or are we doing it for the worship of Allah? So we're worshipping one thing. We're either worshipping Allah or we're worshipping our own nafs. Okay, so here we have to be sided with worshipping Allah. That's the remedy, that's the cure. That's the way we attain ikhlas. And secondly, it's also by making sure trying to please Allah removes any pleasure of the nafs and the ego. Okay. So when we turn our focus and direct it to gaining Allah's pleasure, then we don't focus on the pleasure of the nafs and the ego. And so we manifest this verse, right? Which is what our Prophet is also commanded to say. Verily, my reward is from Allah alone. In ajriya illa ala Allah. So by renouncing the material and moral reward to be had from people, right, men, thus manifesting the verse, again, directed to our Prophet, but again, that looks to us in regards to ikhlas, naught is incumbent on the messenger but conveying the message. Okay. So favorable impressions, people's attention, gaining some kind of following, these things which causes the rivalry inherently, they're all Allah's duty. They're not necessary and they're not something we're responsible for. So when we know this and when we kind of apply ikhlas in this correct way, that seemingly lack of structure is resolved. So we, although we don't have the hierarchy, we don't really need that hierarchy, right? Some people try to kind of rectify this by institutionalizing certain things and so on. But on the way of spiritual journeying, I guess, on the way of walaya, there is none of that. There is no kind of appointment in that direct sense. There is, of course, hierarchies. There are levels of closeness to Allah, but this is Allah's duty. Okay, we can't. It's not something to be competitive about or something to be in rivalry about. So that's the number one, the first cause, the first reason why there seems to be discord and disagreement here and concord and agreement there with the people of the world, the neglect and the heedless. Any comments, any questions on that first point, on the first cause? If not, we can continue with the second. Okay, let's read on. The second cause, the agreement among the people of misguidance is on account of their abasement, and the dispute among the people of misguidance is on account of their dignity. That is to say, that the people of neglect, those misguided ones sunk in worldly concerns, are weak and abased because they do not rely on truth and reality. And on account of their abasement, they need to augment their strength. And because of this need, they wholeheartedly embrace the aid and cooperation of others. Even though the path they follow is misguidance, they preserve their agreement. It is as if they were making their godlessness into a form of worship of the truth, their misguidance into a form of sincerity, and their irreligion into a form of solidarity, and their hypocrisy into concord, and thus attaining success. For genuine sincerity, even for the sake of evil, cannot fail to yield results. And whatever man seeks with sincerity, God will grant him it. Okay. The footnote is, whoever seeks earnestly shall find is a rule of truth. Its scope is comprehensive and includes the matter under discussion. So at the get-go there, you know, the issue of, okay, is this disagreement, is this lack of unity, is this caused by some kind of lack of dignity, okay, amongst the people of belief, the people are not people of belief, the people of guidance, the people of scholarship, and the people of tariqah? Is it because they lack some kind of dignity that they have disagreements? And is it because the other side, say the people of heedlessness and misguidance, is it because they have some kind of dignity that they are in agreement? Absolutely not. Okay, it's exactly the opposite. They're in agreement, they're in concord because of their abasement. Okay, right. Why is it that the case? Why are we calling them, say, abased? It's because they are not relying on truth and reality, right? They're weak and they are abased because they're not relying on truth and reality. And so because of this abasement, okay, because of this kind of low level that they're at, they really depend and they appreciate the strength that comes from unity. Okay, so that lack of dignity, I suppose, pushes them towards a kind of a dignified state. And as it says there, their godlessness turns into some kind of worship of the truth. Their religion, lack of religion and lack of belief turns into some kind of solidarity, and their hypocrisy into concord, and they achieve success, right? So they kind of sincerely take on that form of lack of dignity, right, or abasement, and that gives them some kind of concord and agreement, right? They appreciate their weakness, knowing their abasement. They look to the need of finding strength in unity. And as it says here, the principle, because they are sincere, Allah provides it to them, right? God provides them that strength because they sincerely attach the importance and significance to coming together and being in agreement. Let's read the second part. How about the people of guidance? But as for the people of guidance and religion, the religious scholars and those who follow the Sufi path, since they rely upon truth and reality, and each of them on the road of truth thinks only of his sustainer and trusts in his succor, they derive dignity from their belief. So it's because there is dignity on this side, on our side, on the people of guidance and the people of scholarship, on the people of religion. They have some kind of dignity because they are based on the truth. They are based on haqq, right? So they derive some kind of dignity because of this belief, this believing in Allah. When they feel weakness, they turn not toward people, but toward Allah and seek help from Him. And on account of difference in outlook, they feel no real need for the aid of the ones whose outlook or methods apparently oppose their own, and see no need for agreement and unity. This is kind of the dichotomy. Due to your sense of dignity that arises from belief, you now lack the appreciation of coming together and forming a bond, right? Because when you feel weak, you no longer look at people or you look at creation, you resort directly to Allah. You turn directly to the source of power, the source of strength, right? So when you turn towards Allah, you now, not as much, I suppose, you don't really appreciate the strength that Allah has put within unity and concord and agreement, right? So even if you feel like you are weak, you don't turn to unity. Okay? This is part of the cause. Indeed, now, in addition to this, in fact, if obstinacy and egoism are present as well, one will imagine himself to be right and the other to be wrong. Discord and rivalry take the place of concord and love. Thus, sincerity is chased away and its functions disrupted. Excuse me. That's an interesting point. So if on top of this sense of dignity that comes from belief, if there is also the weakness of egoism, rivalry, and we think that, okay, the other side is, our brothers and sisters are, these brothers and sisters are wrong and we're right. If that kind of virus seeps in, then obviously things turn upside down. And while we are in need of agreement and unity, we tend to resort to disagreement and discord. So sincerity is chased away and its functions become disrupted. Now, the only remedy for the critical consequences of this awesome state consists of 9 commands. So the Risale-i is quite unique. We don't really wallow on just the problems and identifying the issues. Ustad at every point offers the remedy, offers the cure and solution to all of these really serious issues, which is quite unique. I mean, identifying is one thing, as anyone pursuing any academic career would kind of know. Identifying issues is one thing, but then offering a remedy, offering a cure and solution is a completely different thing. So this is now the remedy and cure for this lack of disagreement that comes from dignity. The first.
Before going to the solution, we have a question.
We have a question. Yep, go ahead.
When I think about the times of the Sahabas, for example, there seems to have been this kind of rivalry or like racing towards doing good deeds to secure the reward with Allah. So I was wondering, does ikhlas, I mean, we understand that it is not caring about one's own, the needs of one's own ego or nafs, but what about rewards of the hereafter and rewards from Allah Ta'ala? And how does this kind of rivalry, how can this be reconciliated with the concord and love that we also observe in the communities, in the first community?
Fantastic question. Yeah, it's a very good question. In fact, this is kind of the topic of discussion for the third cause of why there is some kind of disagreement and discord. If you like, we can leave it to that. But very briefly, I suppose, with the Sahabas, remember the level of the Sahabas, due to their proximity to the Prophet ﷺ, and his nur and his light and his message and his physical being, their levels are quite different. So when we encounter some of the stories of the Sahabas, we really need to kind of, that's why sometimes it's a little difficult to understand. You know, if it's narrated that if we saw the Sahabas today, we would think that they're probably kind of a little bit on the crazy side, you know. And if they saw us, they would probably question, are these people really believers? So the level that when we kind of encounter their stories, the sacrifice, the dedication, the commitment and determination that they have is at a completely different level. So when they're competing, when we kind of hear of them competing, they're not doing it at the detriment of the other, if you know what I mean. They're not doing it at the cost of reducing the other side to a lesser degree. But when we talk about competition and rivalry today, especially regarding religious duties and functions, it's more so done in that negative context. So we do it at the cost of the other, where we try to eliminate the rivalry, the competition. We eliminate the other. But this issue of also, can we be competitive in regards to the deeds of the hereafter? That's also discussed on the in the next chapter, which is the 21st flash, where it says that really, in essence, there can be no true rivalry in the issues and deeds of the hereafter because they're infinite, right? And they're universal. They're comprehensive in the sense that anyone can attain any degree because there's no scarcity, there's no limit. Then there really isn't any competition in the worldly sense, in the sense that we use competition for us. So their competition, I guess, to answer your question directly, is more of an encouragement to see how much they can push themselves rather than kind of eliminate the other, if you know what I mean. Does that kind of make sense? But this point here, though, the second cause here is, the notion that, okay, if there's disagreement and discord and rivalry between a certain group, it's because they lack dignity. They lack some kind of honor, if you like. And if there is agreement and concord on the other side, well, you assume generally that they have the quality and attribute of honor and dignity. That they're dignified enough to understand and work together and put down certain rules and things in place so they kind of operate. Here, it's kind of going into the heart of that. Right? It's because there is a lack of dignity under the people of misguidance that they see and appreciate the value of uniting and being in agreement, right? And it's because that people of scholarship, the people of guidance, and the people of religion, it's because they are dignified that they don't see sometimes as a mistake They mistakenly don't see the value of coming together, of uniting, of being in agreement, because they turn directly to Allah instead of each other, which is not correct. But now this is the remedy for that what we're going to read now is how do we not fall into that mistake? Still keep ourselves dignified as people of guidance, as people of belief, and as people of religion, scholarship, still keep our dignity, but also continue to appreciate the value of agreement. Does that explain what? I guess that's also going to be covered in the third cause. So, if it's still not clear, we can, I guess, talk about it in the third cause as well. So,
yes, that was a clear answer, and I understood that from economics theory. So, barakallah.
Of course, inshallah. So the remedy now to maintain our agreement and unity with dignity, right, and not feel the need or become lazy and complacent about not needing one another. This is the remedy. The only remedy, it says now, the only remedy for the critical consequences of this awesome state consists of 9 commands. The first, to act positively. That is, out of love for one's own outlook, avoiding enmity for other outlooks, not criticizing them, interfering in their beliefs and sciences, or in any way concerning oneself with them. Right? So positively can also be used interchangeably with constructively. So to act positively and constructively is the first rule. To operate with love for your own method, your own approach, and avoiding the mistakes of other methods, avoiding criticizing them and interfering in their ways, and concerning yourself with them, just avoiding that. So acting completely constructively from within your approach. That's number 1. Number 2, to unite within the fold of Islam, irrespective of particular outlook, remembering those numerous ties of unity that evoke love, brotherhood, and concord. That's the unity within Islam. So to know that there's such strong universal bonds that bring us together, that this is not something to overlook. The strength and those numerous ties tying us up to ourselves and with each other is what brings us value. So that's the unity within the fold of Islam. Number 3, to adopt the just rule, the fair rule of conduct, that the follower of any right outlook method has the right to say, my outlook is true or the best, but not that my outlook alone is true or that my outlook alone is good, thus implying the falsity or repugnance of all other outlooks. This is a beautiful statement that I think we often overlook. So you have there's a fair principle when you have the right to say, my method, my approach is better, it's the best. Okay, that's valid. You can say that. There's no harm in that. You can adopt that, but then you are in no position, and it's completely invalid to say, my outlook alone is true. Only my approach, only my method is the true one. So why would that be the case? What's the subtlety there? As it says here, it says the second statement implies the falsity and repugnance of all other outlooks. So you kind of invalidate everyone else if you say, it's only my way or the highway. It's only my method and my approach, right? But you're able to say my outlook, my method is better, or my outlook is the best. Right? So you're not invalidating anyone else when you're saying that. Number 4, to consider that union with the people of truth is a cause of divine succor and high dignity of religion. So This is another very important point. Aren't we all interested in getting the favor of Allah, right? Being blessed by Him in everything that we do, and kind of treating ourselves and treating each other in a dignified way? Aren't we all kind of chasing that anyway? So to know that that comes with union of the people of truth. So it's not that, even if I'm dignified, even if I have belief, we really need to understand that it's through unity that Allah's favor rains down on us, is showered upon us. It's number 4. Number 5, to realize that the individual resistance of the most powerful person against the attacks through its genius of the mighty collective force of the people of misguidance and falsehood, which arises from their solidarity, will inevitably be defeated, and through the union of the people of truth to create a joint and collective force also in order to preserve justice and right in the face of that fearsome collective force of misguidance. And this is another very important point, which the Risale-i goes on to kind of expound in many of its places. And when we understand and appreciate this, I guess it kind of compels us to unite and work in agreement and concord. To know that really it doesn't matter how much of a genius, I suppose, you are individually, how right you are. The opposing force of misguidance and heedlessness and neglect, those powers, those currents, they're acting in unity. They're acting as a collective character, right? A collective spiritual character, right? And so no matter how strong you are individually, you're unable to withstand their attacks. You're unable to, it's impossible to kind of uphold truth against that falsehood in that unified individual manner, single manner, sorry, not unified, in a single manner. And so to counter this, to understand that it is only through the union of the people of truth, their agreement, their concord, that you can assemble, I guess, a collective force to withstand that attack coming from the people of misguidance, the people of heedlessness, and the people of neglect. Right? So that's really something to appreciate, and that's another big point. Number 6, and these are all consecutive points, so I'll read them together. In order to preserve the truth from the assaults of falsehood, to abandon the self and its egoism, and give up the mistaken concept of self-pride, and cease from all insignificant feelings aroused by rivalry. So really, I guess we can kind of speak about this in reverse because it's a translation. But really, it's in order to understand that upholding the truth against falsehood, right? We must, number 7, give up the nafs and the ego. We must, number 8, give up the misconceived notions of pride that we have of ourselves. That's incorrect. And number 9, give up any feelings of rivalry and competition. Right? So these 9 commands, so if this 9-fold rule is adhered to, ikhlas will be preserved and its function perfectly performed. Now, I'm going to read this last part as well, but before I do we understand any, or not understand any of the 9 points there? You're all good? So the note here is an addition. It says, it is even recorded in authentic traditions of the Prophet, the Sunnah, or the narrations of the Hadith, that at the end of time, the truly pious among the Christians will unite with the people of the Quran and fight their common enemy, irreligion. And at this time too, the people of religion and truth need to unite sincerely, not only with their own brothers and fellow believers, but also with the truly pious and spiritual ones among the Christians, temporarily refraining from the discussion and debate of points of difference in order to combat their joint enemy, aggressive atheism. That's the second clause. Any comments or questions on that? So the reason is the dignity of the believers that causes them to fall into the mistake of not needing each other, that makes us appear as not having concord and agreement. Okay. The third cause, and we'll finish it with this, but this is, I hope, addressing the question that was asked last as well. Disagreement among the people of truth does not arise from lack of zeal and aspiration, nor does union among the people of misguidance arise from loftiness of aspiration. That which impels the people of guidance to the misuse of their high aspiration and hence to disagreement and rivalry is the desire for heavenly reward that is counted as a praiseworthy quality in respect of the hereafter, and extreme eagerness with respect to duties pertaining to the hereafter. So this is kind of where some people might assume that, okay, if there's rivalry, if there's discord and dissension and disagreements within any community, generally one of the things is, okay, these people lack vision, they kind of lack an aspiration, a goal, a high ambition. And so, that's probably what's causing their disagreement. Whereas here it says, what impels the people of misguidance, okay, what impels them to actually fall into rivalry and competition is their desire, right? Their desire for the rewards relating to the hereafter, which is fine in respect of the hereafter, and their extreme eagerness with respect to their performing their functions of the hereafter, which is okay, but that's what causes the rivalry. Okay, this was the negative rivalry that we were talking about, not the rivalry that we hear of amongst the Sahaba. Okay. So thinking to oneself, let me gain this reward, let me guide these people, let them listen to me, the person takes up a position of rivalry towards the true brother who faces him and who stands in real need of his love, assistance, brotherhood, and aid. Saying to oneself, why are my pupils going to him? Why don't I have as many pupils as him? He falls prey to egoism, inclines to the chronic disease of ambition, loses all sincerity, and opens the door to hypocrisy. Okay. Do you think this is a common issue? This was the negative competition we were talking about earlier. Okay, so we're now looking at removing the competition rather than working to enhance our position and our reward and our performance. Okay. Why don't I have as much as him? Why I should be the one explaining this? I should be the one doing this, not him or her. And so we fall prey to the egoism. So what seemingly appears to be a innocent kind of venture into gaining reward now becomes a weakness. Okay, we turn that into a weakness. So it's not harmful to gain or try to gain rewards and to be kind of increasing your performance and intensity to be closer to Allah and perform more good deeds. There's no harm in that whatsoever. But it opens this pathway when egoism and when the nafs is controlling us. And so we become hypocrites in many ways and we lose ikhlas altogether. The cure for this error, this wound, this awesome sickness of the spirit is the principle that Allah's pleasure is gained by sincerity alone, and not by a large following or great success. For these latter, the large followings and the great achievements, those things are a function of Allah's will. They cannot be demanded, although they are sometimes given. Sometimes a single word will result in someone's salvation and hence the pleasure of Allah. Sometimes, I'll repeat that again, sometimes a single word will result in someone's salvation and hence the pleasure of Allah. Quantity should not receive too much attention, for sometimes to guide one man to the truth may be as pleasing to Allah as guiding 1,000. Moreover, sincerity, ikhlas, and adherence to the truth require that one should desire the Muslims to benefit from anyone and at any place they can. To think, let them take lessons from me so that I can gain the reward, is a trick of the nafs and the ego. O man, greedy for reward in the hereafter and the performance of deeds entitling you to that reward. O man, greedy for reward in the hereafter and the performance of deeds entitling you to that reward. There have been certain prophets who have only had a limited following, but received the infinite reward of the sacred duty of prophethood. The true achievement lies then not in gaining a vast following, but in gaining Allah's pleasure. What do you imagine yourself to be, saying, let everyone listen to me? You forget your function and interfere in what is strictly Allah's concern. To gain acceptance for you and to have people gather around you is Allah's concern. So look to your own duty and concern and do not meddle with Allah's concerns. There's a powerful point there. Moreover, it is not only men who earn reward for those who hear and speak the truth. The sentient and spiritual beings of Allah and His angels have filled the universe and adorned its every part. Is there a question there from Amir? Is there a question? Sorry, Brother Amir. Please.
Yes. Sorry. I wanted to ask, what are the scriptural evidences for the principle of Allah's rida is achieved by ikhlas alone?
So the verse that we read in the beginning of the chapter is clearly an evidence, and the tafsirs written on that is extremely numerous. We can scroll up to that if you like and revisit that. Many other ayat are available for this, but let's just start with this one. So it says here, for example, the ayat says, verily we sent the book down to you in truth, so worship Allah in sincerity, for Allah's is sincerely practiced religion. So mukhlisan lahu din and ala lillahi dinul khalis. So the religion is only one of ikhlas. There's no other. Right? If there is no ikhlas within religion, there's something missing. It's not complete. So Allah looks at the ikhlas, or the sincerity in the religion, right? And the first one as well. فَاعْبُدِ اللَّهَ مُخْلِصًا لَهُ الدِّينَ. So worship with ikhlas, sincerely. So these are commands, direct commands, and of course the hadith is also very pertinent, right? So everyone will perish except the scholars, those who have knowledge, and all the scholars will perish. They too will perish, except those who act in accordance with their knowledge, okay, who actually act according to their knowledge. And all of them will perish except those who have ikhlas, the sincere. And even the sincere are in great danger. وَالْمُخْلِصُونَ عَلَى خَطَرٍ عَظِيمٍ. So even the people who have ikhlas are still not guaranteed, but they are the most likely to be saved, right? So they're kind of the direct scriptural references if you're interested.
Another interesting example that came to my mind is the Surah Ikhlas. The first time I read it, I was kind of, okay, it's talking about oneness of God. What's the relation between this and the Ikhlas? But it kind of shows us that everything should be for God at the end of the day, right? Whatever purpose we are following, whatever path we are taking, or whatever methods we are using, whatever relations we are having, but at the end of the day, all of them should be for the sake of Allah, right? The Surah Ikhlas is by itself is
Indeed, of course. That's as I said. I think it's kind of the essence of the practicing religion in itself. So really, our scales or our measures of performance, say for worldly day-to-day matters, really don't apply with spiritual matters relating to the hereafter, because while day-to-day issues, we look at quantity, we look at numbers, we look at ranks, we compare and contrast and all these things. It said here just before that that is Allah's duty. None of that is your duty and responsibility. So it doesn't really pertain to us. We shouldn't be chasing those things, and we shouldn't be measuring our success and achievement by the number of followers, the number of people, the number of who you're reaching out to, how many. Because what was the example given there? It said, well, look at the prophets. There's some prophets who are the closest in the sight of Allah among all humankind. They only had a few followers. Some had none. Did that diminish their rank? Did that reduce their level of acceptance in the sight of Allah? Absolutely not. In fact, it stayed even purer, because it was clearly true. He was clearly loyal. The Prophet was clearly determined to pursue that duty, irrespective of what happened that concerned Allah. He didn't concern himself with Allah's duty. He only made sure that he was focusing on his own. So that is at the utmost level of ikhlas. And of course, we can't be like the prophets. And so we take our Prophet ﷺ as the ultimate guide. And he says, in ajriya illa ala Allah, I seek no reward except that which comes from Allah. And so, as it says here, those issues of quantity and the number of gatherings and the followers and achievements that we're supposed to be as achievements, they're sometimes given, right? We don't do the deeds for those things, but sometimes they're given. And you'll see like two different, maybe, two equivalent people doing the same duty, same function. One gains success, one doesn't. It's not because one's lacking. Sometimes Allah gives this success, and sometimes He doesn't. And that's Allah's concern. That's Allah's duty. It's not something for us to kind of be concerned about, be worried about. Our duty is to make sure, am I doing this for the sake of my nafs, or am I doing this for the sake of Allah? And so here, Allah's pleasure and acceptance is gained by ikhlas. It's not gained by worrying about things that concern Allah. And this last point again, if you're so worried about having followers, or having a large gathering, or achieving some kind of momentum among people and beings who follow and listen to you, then it says, don't limit yourself just to human beings. There's so many the spirit beings and sentient beings of Allah. His angels are filled. This whole universe and earth is filled with these beings, right? The whole universe is adorned with these angels. So it says here, if you want plentiful reward, take ikhlas as your foundation and think only of Allah's pleasure. Then every syllable of the blessed words that issue forth from your mouth will be brought to life by your ikhlas and truthful intention, and going to the ears of innumerable sentient beings, angelic beings, they will illumine them and earn you reward. For when, for example, you say, Alhamdulillah, praise be and thanks be to Allah, millions of these words, great and small, are written on the page of the air by Allah's leave. So through Allah's permission, that one Alhamdulillah that comes out of your mouth is instantly multiplied among the particles of the air before you, right? Instantly, one becomes millions. And since the all-wise inscriber did nothing prodigally or in vain, He created innumerable ears, as many as were needed to hear those multiple blessed words. So why would Allah multiply these words? Okay, or as it says here, why would He inscribe them on the page of the air millions of times over by you saying it once? Since Allah doesn't create anything in vain or in waste, clearly there are beings that hear this and benefit from it. So you shouldn't limit yourself just to people, just to human beings. Worry about your ikhlas so that that one word becomes multiplied. As it says here, if those words are brought to life in the air by ikhlas and truthful intent, they will enter the ears of the spirit beings like some tasty fruit in the mouth. But if Allah's pleasure and sincerity do not bring those words to life, they will not be heard, and reward will be had only for the single utterance made by the mouth. Pay good attention to this. You Quran reciters who are sad that your voices are not more beautiful and that more people do not listen to you. Yeah. So again, with this point here, if you realize it's not any lack of zeal, lack of vision, lack of kind of positive aspiration, ambition, that Muslims fall into some kind of discord and disunity. It's actually because they have this zeal of gaining a reward for the hereafter. It's because they have this lofty aspiration of achieving more good deeds to secure their hereafter, to secure Allah's pleasure, that they fall into rivalry and competition. Okay. It's not a justification, but it's a weak spot when there is egoism and the nafs. When that's not remedied, those things, of course, then become issues of negative competition where, instead of worrying about ikhlas, by having our focus concerned exclusively and only on how we are meant to please Allah, then we focus on extremely unrelated matters that relate only to Allah's. It's Allah's business. It's not our business to have the following, to have the achievement, to have the people gather around us, is not our concern. And so when we have this mindset, it becomes a remedy for the cause that leads to discord, disunity, disagreement, that unfortunately works against us. So it's not a lack of zeal. Ours is actually the lofty aspiration and a high sense of zeal and determination that unfortunately sometimes we abuse, we misuse, when we turn it into a negative rivalry. Now this goes on for another, there's seven causes in total, and we've read only 3. But this is really, I suppose, at a time when Muslim divisions and disagreements are kind of brushed on our faces to kind of put us down, discredit Islam in general, whether it be the mazhabs and whether it be the jamaats and the tariqas and the ways and so on. For us, ours is the way of ikhlas. Okay, and these are the remedies.
Kerem, are you online still?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
Okay, we just missed your last.
So I finished it up basically. Inshallah. So we worry about our business and not worry about Allah's business. Inshallah, we can maintain ikhlas until the end of our lives and look at focusing on our agreement, our unity, our concord, and not allow our egoism and the nafs to interfere, and use the causes for our dignity, use our actual lofty zeal, use all those beautiful things that Allah has granted us against us. So that's inshallah what we can say. I don't know if I have.
Yeah, thank you so much. We are kind of out of time. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and may Allah make it more beneficial for you for this program. And I would have loved to have been there, but inshallah, perhaps next time, when all this COVID and all the isolation and quarantining is out of the way,
yes.
Perhaps we can have one in Australia as well one day.